Hark, New Dominionist Book Club. As you know, I'm Mrs. Betty Bowers, America's Best Christian, trademark glory. Now, as a conservative Christian, I never allow myself to be burdened by inconvenient facts, particularly the ones emanating from the very anus of Satan, unvarnished American history. So I confess to feeling the novelty of being rattled right now. I made the careless mistake of reading From Theocracy to Religious Liberty by Chris Rodda, Senior Research Director at the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. More on those meddlers in a minute. Now, as a Dominionist, I find that facts fall into two opposite categories, helpful and verifiable. And this rudely candid book was filled with so many unhelpful, verifiable facts, I had to read 3 Sean Hannity books just to dilute the toxicity of all that accuracy. Frankly, I only suggested From Theocracy to Religious Liberty to you because I thought from the title it was going to be about how conservative Christians cleverly rebranded theocracy as religious liberty, because nowadays religious liberty, also doing business as religious freedom, is just a clever gimmick we conservative Christians use to impose our religion on others. Just don't tell them yet. Shh. So imagine my shock at discovering that when our country was founded, religious liberty meant the opposite of that. Religious liberty was all about stopping conservative Christians from imposing their religion on others. Exactly. Get those matches ready, girls, because this is just one of the awkward facts I learned from Theocracy to Religious Liberty, and it's going to take me days to forget it. But I should have guessed this book would be grossly inconvenient, as the author is associated with that pesky anti-theocracy Military Religious Freedom Foundation. Oh. They're notorious for rudely stopping Dominionists in the military from using the U.S. government to impose our faith on their troops, Constitution-obsessed troublemakers. The book is full of sourced historical information I didn't know, and indeed, no one should know. For example, until I read this book, I was unaware that super-liberal Connecticut was once a theocracy.
Glory to God.
It's a utopia. Like a less humid version of today's Alabama, only with better country clubs. Yes, and Yale. This theocracy was run by the Federalists, the party that believed the rich should rule, feared more people being able to vote would put them out of power, regarded immigrants with contempt, and boast of having all the religion. Sound familiar? And just like today's Republicans, the law and order Federalists were drama queens who claimed that if they lost power, it would be just like the French Revolution in America. Oh, mean girls to the core. They called liberals Jacobins.
They have adopted the spirit of a Jacobin mob in the French Revolution, in the reign of terror, trying to completely erase our culture and our history. Unfortunately, many Democrats are vying to be the Robespierre for this Jacobin mob.
As the real Jacobins would have said, plus ça change. Yes, Dolores, that's tongues. I was thrilled to discover that Connecticut was a theocracy. I turned to Franklin Graham on my Gulfstream and said, see, America did start as a Christian nation, but this book intruded mid-gloat by rudely pointing out that Connecticut was some kooky outlier not representative of America when it was founded at all. Worse, it had the temerity to stop being a theocracy. Quitters. And worst of all, it was religious liberty that was invoked to stop the clergy from running the state. Busybody presidents Jefferson and Adams celebrated the end to religious rule in Connecticut. They even mocked the state for allowing religion to have so much influence over it. Get thee behind me, founding fathers. Now, Jefferson Cadley wrote to Adams, congratulations that this den of the priesthood is at length broken up and that a Protestant popedom is no longer to disgrace the American history and character. Protestant popedom? Redheads can be so shady. And that's the problem with this book. It shows that being a theocracy made Connecticut a silly laughingstock instead of a shining example. Clearly, ladies, this is a very dangerous book because it reveals that religious freedom at the start of our nation was not used to impose religious views on minorities, but to protect minorities from the religious views of the majority. In other words, when our nation started, religious liberty meant less influence by religion on citizens. No, not more. And as we currently try to use religious liberty to turn all of America into a 1800s-style Connecticut theocracy, we can't let this unhelpful information get out. It's hard to scam people for their own good when they come armed with knowledge. Fortunately, that's seldom a problem in America. But we have to be vigilant. From theocracy to religious liberty makes today's conservative Christians look like liars, almost as much as Jerry Falwell. Sure, Karen, Jerry just watched. It's not what Jesus told me. And unflattering, inconvenient history like this is why our president is pushing for more patriotic history to be taught in schools. You know, like how the Pilgrims struck a shrewd bargain with the Indians. We'll take all your recipes if you give us all your land. Oh, now that's the art of the deal. Or how Jesus was in such a rush to write the Constitution. He totally forgot to mention himself. Oh, not even once, bless his heart. Or how being a happy slave in America was just like being a happy servant at Downton Abbey, only without an adorable old curmudgeon saying clever things. Or how child labor in the 1800s provided millions of underage ragamuffins fabulous careers, burrowing like little darling soot-covered voles in the deep, dark shafts of clean coal mines. Lovely, heartwarming tales like those that make traditionally taught American history sorta a Hallmark channel for white people. What am I saying? The Hallmark Channel is already for white people, but it's books like From Theocracy to Religious Liberty that intrude on the warm glow of pretending our motherland was once perfect. Perfectly Christian. And that's why I encourage all of you to buy this book and then do what we do to all books that aren't the Lord's only bestseller, because we need to keep it out of the hands of impressionable children. And by that, I mean Congress. Oh, don't you love books? They make excellent kindling.